All right. Daredevil by Frank Miller and other people. Companion, it's called. Omnibus. So this is called the companion to the main omnibus. It really is just Omnibus Volume 2, and I'll get to that in a second. It's really weird how they did these two books, but oh well. My name is John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling comic creator and an award-winning comic creator. And I have my links in the description below if you like my thoughts on comics and like my reviews. If you just like me, if you don't like anything else, or if you just want to check out something new to read even, please check out those books. The reason we do this is to get exposure, and it's really hard to sell indie comics. I appreciate every one of you who comes in for that. Now, I got this in a ding and dent sale, and as you can see, it's got a ding and dent. The corner was pretty beat up, but I got this for $20. So what can I... And all these pages are kind of like that at the top corner. Not too bad. I wanted to read these stories, and it was a great way to do so. As you can tell, the dust jacket, not too different than what's on the outside. Now, why this is weird is you got Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 27 and 28, Daredevil 219, which is just a one-off, and then 226 through 233. We get a miniseries, The Man Without Fear, 1 through 5, and Daredevil, Love and War, another miniseries. Now, if you just put Spectacular Spider-Man before the rest of the Frank Miller run at the beginning, and then put these kind of at the end, I guess you'd be able to read all this like in order. So if you're reading both omnibuses, I actually recommend reading this first, then going to the other omnibus, reading all that, then going to 219 and forward. And it really is the full Frank Miller Daredevil story that way. This ending part, especially the 226 through 233, which is the Born Again storyline, is like the prototypical Frank Miller story. Very fun, Spectacular Spider-Man. This was actually written by Bill Mantlo, and Frank Miller just did the art on it. Maybe that's why they called it part of the companion piece. And this was some of his early work. Spider-Man goes blind, so Daredevil helps him as a blind guy to navigate through a situation over a couple of issues. Really good. Really fun stuff. I thought this was fantastic. I can't wait for the Spectacular Spider-Man Omnibus to come out. Excellent stuff. Best comics out there. Cool. We get an issue in 219 of Daredevil here, where we just kind of like get a little one-off, which is kind of an odd deal, and it's doesn't really tie into anything. So we get prisoner escapes. We have Matt Murdock just kind of walking around. I hate stuff like that. All right. So then we get into this. Denny O'Neil actually scripts the first issue of this with Frank Miller, and then Frank Miller kind of takes it over. It starts out with Gladiator, and Gladiator's he's been good. He's been on a sort of parole, and he's going bad again. We get into this situation where Murdock is like been Daredevil for a while. Foggy Nelson's dating some girl who used to date Murdock. It's kind of odd. And there's no setup. I'd like to read the stuff that came up to this. But Frank Miller actually stopped his run, about 30 issues prior to this. So we're talking 2-3 years of Daredevil stories have gone forward since the old Frank Miller run. So it's kind of a lot of stuff out of nowhere. Then we get into the main meat in 227. That's really where the story starts. And we get Karen Page, who has not been in the book for a long time, at least from the stuff I've read. And she's like drugged out in Mexico and being held prisoner, basically, trying to escape. The Kingpin's also doing his thing. And Matt Murdock is getting screwed by the Kingpin in his personal life. So Karen Page actually, to score some smack, some heroin, gives away Matt Murdock's identity. The Kingpin takes it, and the Kingpin systematically ruins his life. Now, this has been a story that we've reread again in Bendis and every other Daredevil, basically, the Kingpin doing this. So this is really where it originates. All the stuff really homages this. Karen Page escapes. As you can see, the art's beautiful. Absolutely just stunningly beautiful. It's good stuff. Who did this? Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli? I hope I pronounced that right. So I know that Frank's really like loose breakdowns for a lot of the stuff, and he has some good inkers who follow up with him, typically in his work. But you can tell this is like Marvel style is starting to change, and the Marvel house style is still kind of here to some degree, but you see the bigger eyes, you see the very much expressiveness, you see the panel layouts getting a little bit more creative. This really inspires early Todd McFarlane stuff. You can tell, like, Todd McFarlane really copied this. We get the Kingpin beefing up, and Matt Murdock, like, really goes off the rails and just goes batshit crazy. Pardon my French. And he beats the Kingpin up a little bit. The Kingpin then beats him up. They think he kills him, and Matt Murdock kind of becomes homeless on the street. Very odd. And here's the experimental panel layout starting to happen again. And it looks like everything's going to hell. Foggy's kind of like, what's going on? Ben Urich's starting to look into stuff, but he's getting threatened by the Kingpin. We have Karen Page in her horrific escape as she's getting sexually abused and she's getting drug addicted. I mean, it's just, I mean, Frank Miller really ruined this character. Like, I really hated this aspect of it. I don't like the taking of characters and destroying them like that. I think there's no reason to really go that far. A lot of writers mistake great writing for pushing the boundaries of just negativity, and they think that that's a way to, project better and better character development or something like that. That's false. It's using shock tactics to shock readers and then distracting them from the finer points of this. And that's what happens over the course of this. That's an interesting part. We got a nun who fixes up Murdoch. I'm enjoying the storyline on the Murdoch side, at least with this, and with the Kingpin really training to just, like, kick Daredevil's butt. And the Ben Urich stuff's pretty good, too, as he's getting just hounded. Even though this is not, like, realistic art, you can see just the expressiveness of just the, like, he's in shock. Because he can't believe he's getting blackmailed and beat up like this. It's good stuff. So eventually, Daredevil comes back and, like, starts to fight with the Kingpin, and Ben Urich grows a pair and does the same. Karen Page shows up finally. She actually sleeps with some dirty drug dealer to make her way back, and he's threatening to kill her at this point, and Matt Murdock just, like, saves her from her drug addiction and all that. It was really tacky and awful. I mean, they ruined her character. They really did. Disgusting. Then it goes off the rails, really weird for and it, like, Kingpin hires this guy who is a like super patriot like Captain America, but he takes pills to make himself more violent, I guess. It's very odd. And he's just like a gung-ho dude, like Rambo, but not. And very odd character that doesn't fit in this whole semi-realistic Daredevil at all. He starts just blowing stuff up. Daredevil has problems with him. Captain America has to jump in and save him. Very odd way to do this. It's just like the tone of this shifted very to a strange spot. But eventually, Daredevil beats that guy. Karen Page is okay. Captain America steps in. And then, like, instead of, like, having a resolution with the Kingpin and having a big epic fight with the Kingpin, which is kind of what you would want as a reader, it's all about that weird super patriot guy. You get 2 pages of just summary. And then the summary, like, it just says Kingpin's empire started to, like, collapse a little bit. And he lived happily ever after with Karen. The end. Very odd ending. So I actually, like, I know this is a hailed, revered storyline, and I liked the beginning of it. I liked the Matt Murdock fighting in tooth and nail against the Kingpin. That was interesting. I didn't like how they handled Karen Page. I didn't like that super patriot character that he introduced at the end. I just thought it was very weird, and it felt very haphazardly put together. And using shock value, using extreme violence, using extreme drugs and sex in order to cover up the fact that the story was not very tight. That's what I gotta say on that. So then we get a graphic novel, Love and War, and this is Bill Sienkiewicz. Oh man, I don't know if I pronounced that right. And you get some pretty interesting art here. The Kingpin is very much impressionistically drawn as a giant dude. His wife is in a coma, and his art's pretty neat. It's very different. It's arty. But it's hard to get into this story as Daredevil fights this situation. It involves like this doctor who's like his wife's getting taken by the Kingpin, and the Kingpin's like, you better heal my wife or else. And it ends with a bunch of blood and guts and everybody dying, basically. So very weird anti-heroic story. I didn't much care for this that much either. Other than like the really cool art style, which is, I got to give him credit that it's very unique and different and interesting looking. I just did not find this to be an appealing storyline. Now the guy who held the doctor's wife was actually just like a complete psycho, and he imagined him with her, and like it was just, again, all over the map. I just didn't think the writing was that great. We fast forward to the 90s all of a sudden, and we get this like Daredevil origin story, The Man Without Fear, which retells the origin, but like in a decompressed format, with John Romita Jr., like a completely different art style. This is pretty typical 90s Marvel look. John Romita Jr.'s got his very distinctive style, as you can see. That's very completely different. Again. And lots of childhood training and figuring out as he like learns to cope with his blindness, etc. We get a little more detail of his college life with Elektra, which was established early in the Frank Miller run. But again, this is just a retcon, decompressed version of his deal. And the odd part is, like, Matt Murdock dealt with the Kingpin prior to the fact that he was Daredevil. And like they kind of knew each other. Which doesn't really fit within continuity very well, because it just doesn't. And as you see, Daredevil is not actually Daredevil. He's just wearing a ski mask or whatnot in this to be the Man Without Fear, quote, not just Daredevil. And he eventually foils the Kingpin's plot here. But I really thought it just continuity-wise didn't make sense to have the Kingpin there. It was kind of a throwaway story, to be honest. Not necessary. You got lots of script stuff and all these process notes in the back, like you do a lot of these omnibuses, and that's it. So I didn't like this as much as a lot of people hailed it. I really think Frank Miller went off the rails in deconstructing the characters, and if you look at Marvel Comics, this influence, I mean, it influenced a lot. It really did, but the influence is negative. It really hurt a lot of comics because every character then got deconstructed and got destroyed very similarly as people tried to ape this style. If it was done once, maybe it wouldn't have been that bad, but man, I just don't want to see that thing done to heroes anymore. I don't want to see that thing done to the loyal supporting characters like Karen Page. It just makes me unhappy to read at the end of the day. The art's cool. Lots of cool different styles through here. Nice to look at. But this fell flat for me for the reasons I already stated. Call it like a 6 out of 10. And that's it. I'm done with all the Frank Miller Daredevil, and I was not impressed. Hit the like and subscribe button. Tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm going to get some angry comments about this. We'll be back soon.